One moment, our parents are bringing us to the movies. The next moment, we are the ones bringing them. And somehow, we never notice when that change happens. Hello everyone, welcome back to the second half playbook. I'm JY. Last weekend, I spent the early afternoon helping my parents revisit their past. And later that same day, I found myself revisiting my own, all in a single day. I was reminded how quickly life passes. And somehow, that simple realization stayed with me long after the weekend was over. Today, I would like to share that experience with you because I think many of us in the second half of life may be going through something very similar. The first event was a movie, a Teochew movie from China called 给阿妈的情书 or Dear You. Many of you may already have heard about it. The movie became incredibly popular because it tells the story of overseas Chinese families, the sacrifices made by earlier generations, and the emotional bonds carried through letters, memories, and family relationships. At the heart of the story is something called Teochew. For those who may not be familiar with the term, these were letters and money remittance sent home by Chinese migrants who had left their families behind and traveled to Southeast Asia in search of a better future. For many families in Singapore, especially those with Teochew, Hokkien, Cantonese, Hakka, or Hainanese roots, this is not somebody else's story. It is our story. It is part of our family history. It is part of how many of our parents and grandparents came to be here. Getting the tickets was not easy. In fact, it was extremely difficult. The Teochew screenings were completely sold out. Every time additional tickets became available, they disappeared almost immediately. Somehow, after quite a bit of effort, I managed to secure 2 tickets, not for myself, but for my parents. I met them, brought them to the cinema, and watched them walk into the theater. As I stood there watching them, a thought suddenly came to me. When I was young, they were the ones bringing me everywhere, to school, to family outings, to places I wanted to visit, to experiences they hoped I would remember. Back then, I never thought much about it. It simply felt normal. But standing outside that cinema, I realized that without even noticing when it happened, our roles had quietly reversed. Now, I'm the one bringing them, not because they cannot go by themselves, but because time has quietly moved all of us into a different stage of life. And strangely, that made me happier than watching the movie myself, because I knew this movie belonged more to their generation than mine. Many people of their generation either lived through those difficult years or grew up listening to stories from parents and grandparents who crossed the seas from China to Southeast Asia with almost nothing. Stories of hardship, stories of sacrifice, stories of separation, stories of resilience. Most of these stories were never written in history textbooks, but they were written into our families. Sometimes, the greatest gift we can give our parents is not something expensive. It is giving them an opportunity to reconnect with a part of their own journey. A memory, a language, a chapter of life that is slowly disappearing with time. And perhaps that is why so many people were making every effort to get tickets. It wasn't about watching a movie. It was about reconnecting with a part of themselves. After sending my parents into the cinema, my spouse and I headed to another event, the 星瑶明天44致青春 concert. For those who may not know, 星瑶 is something uniquely Singapore. It began in the early 1980s when local youths started writing and performing their own Mandarin songs. Over the years, these songs became part of Singapore's cultural identity, and for many people of my generation, they became part of our lives. This year's concert marked 44 years of Sing Yao. 44 years. Just saying these words makes me pause. Because when those songs first appeared, many of us were still teenagers. We had school uniforms, examinations, dreams, first friendships, first disappointments. For some, first love. We thought life would always move slowly. We thought we had all the time in the world, but somehow, without us noticing, 44 years passed. The Singapore Indoor Stadium was packed. Thousands upon thousands of people. Every seat filled. Tickets sold out almost immediately after release. That tells us something remarkable. People were not buying simply concert tickets. They were buying the opportunity to revisit a part of their lives together. As each familiar melody filled the stadium, it was not only the music, it was the memories. The old cassette tapes, the school days, the classmates, the neighborhoods, the dreams we once had, the younger version of ourselves. For a few precious hours, many of us became teenagers again, at least in our hearts. And as I sat there listening, another thought came to me. The songs had not changed. The lyrics had not changed. The melodies had not changed, but we had. 44 years ago, many of us listened to these songs wondering what our future would become. Today, many of us are listening to the same songs, wondering where those years went. And perhaps that is why one particular Chinese poem kept appearing in my mind throughout the concert. 春风若有莲花意，可否许我再少年? If the spring breeze still has compassion for the flowers, could it allow me to be young once more? I don't think anyone over 50 can hear those words without feeling something. Of course, none of us can become young again, but perhaps that is not the point. Maybe the purpose of memories is not to bring us back. Maybe the purpose is to remind us how fortunate we were to have lived through those moments at all, to have all those friends, to have all those experiences, to have had those people in our lives. Looking back on the weekend, I realized something. In the early afternoon, I was helping my parents revisit their memories. Later that same day, I was revisiting my own. One day, two generations, the same emotion. The desire to hold on to something precious, even as time keeps moving forward. Perhaps this is what the second half of life teaches us. When we are young, we spend our times creating memories. When we became older, we begin collecting them. We realize that memories become one of life's most valuable assets. Not because we want to live in the past, but because they remind us of who we are. They remind us where we came from. And they remind us how many people helped us become the person we are today. So, if your parents are still around, spend some time with them. Bring them somewhere meaningful. It doesn't have to be expensive. Sometimes, one movie, one meal, one conversation, or one afternoon together becomes a memory that lasts forever. And if you are around my age, or even no matter your age, don't feel embarrassed to revisit the songs that shaped your youth. Because every now and then, our hearts also deserve to go home. Last weekend reminded me that life is not measured only by money, achievements, or milestones. Sometimes, life is measured by the memories we create, the memories we preserve, and the memories we share with the people we love. One movie for my parents, one concert for my generation, one ordinary weekend that turned out to be quite extraordinary, and a reminder that the second half of life may actually be the most meaningful half of all. Thank you for watching. If this story resonates with you, I'd love to hear your own memories in the comments below. What song, what movie, or what place instantly brings you back to your younger days? Take care of yourself, take care of your family, and I see you in the next episode of the second half playbook.